bill. That what you spend and on which services you spend it, or where you live, your postal code, etc., has nothing to do with how you go about deciding. It's more, how important is this to me? How much do I like this, to shop in this product, or don't care about this product? Of course we did this because it was the first thought with everybody. We just match the database. There's no correlation whatsoever. Okay. There's also no correlation about the media spending when they said, okay, now tell us the risk averse, which TV stations do they, and which shows do they watch? No correlation.
What's the shelf life of the data? I mean, in 2 years, you hope that you are going to segment the whole database, right? 60 million, whatever, customers. And what's the shelf life of the segmentation? I mean, me, for example, as a risk avoider, let's say,
right.
For how long will I stay in this stage?
If there are no dramatic changes in the market, let's say there's again the introduction of a whole new generation of providers, it is very stable. If I ask you when you are 16 about a mobile contract, and I ask you when you are 50, you work differently. But it's very stable otherwise. Because you do have certain patterns how you go about it, and these preferences don't really change that much.
But the technology changes and different things, like for instance, which you demonstrated here, that in 2005 and 2010 there was a big change, even in the mentality of the one person. He would become, for instance, risk avert, and then he is another thing because, well, he's starting to perceive that it's all the same for us.
Right. Exactly. That changes the overall proportions. But this is not done, it's not a one-time shot that you actually do this, but they will get the customer satisfaction and segmentation questionnaire also every 2 years, for example.
Yeah.
So you do it over again.
But it's very good. I think it's very important approach, and again, it's for the client. It's something he really can use and make money out of it.
And the thing is, I mean, it is a really nice revenue stream, because what we basically do is we license this segmentation, and with every client that we contact and go through, they basically pay a fee, and it's not a small fee. It still is compared to the extra value they get in terms of extended life with their clients. It's small, but for us, it's definitely not small. That's correct. So it basically becomes kind of a licensing program.
Something that we always discuss about when we discuss this kind of segmentation approaches. I mean, and that points to the real difference of that approach to many others. Normally, if you have segmentation, you go for either socio-demographic, psychographic, whatever, that might help you in identifying where, in what kind of media you find which kind of guys. But this is not the language your product developer, your sales manager, your whatever employee is thinking. So maybe he knows that you have a certain kind of milieu, or you have a certain kind of target customer that has that kind of social demographic or psychographic attributes. But that doesn't help to sell the product. Now, this is a segmentation that starts with the decision-making process, the point in time which you want to influence primarily. So that's why it's a talking segmentation, in a sense that it has implications for product development, it has implications for sales, it has implications for pricing. So it's much better to transform this into it, and also give an internal, it makes an internal picture of the customer being present in whatever position is mine, basically. But then again, you have to trade off that it's hard to locate those people, and that's a way to work around that. So it's probably the downside, but even for that we have a solution in this situation. But the definite upside is that this is a segmentation everybody in the company can understand and can transform to their task. And that makes it much more lively in the daily interaction internally than all this kind of social demographic. And I found that really intriguing, whether it should be that one or whatever. It's to really build a segmentation rather on the purchase process or the decision-making process than on some other things that are mainly the perspective on to build it on some other things is mainly driven by media and by media optimization, not by really making a better product, selling it more efficiently. I think it's the main difference.
But I have to say that it depends on the context. Because I mean, Barry and I, we were also talking a lot about MD Connect, what you presented last time. The social values approach for the physicians, I think, is much superior than GRIPS, for example, would ever be, because that's in the consumer context, and there it works really well. It does not work for purchasing behavior of physicians. So you have to really adapt it to the particular industry or products or services that you want to sell. So there's not a one-off solution.
Yeah, but the basics are more or less the same. I mean, the basics of segmentation and helping the client to identify when he's communicating one-to-one, to identify who is this in front of me, so I can tailor my sales pitch or something. This is the basic things that are really.
You need to recognize them immediately and tailor your product or your pitch to it.
Yeah,
that's the key to it. So.
I would actually highlight a slightly different benefit, and partly it's because of what I see as the similarities between the things that we do and that you're doing, and that is that so much of the attention goes to the activity after you've finished doing that stuff that researchers think is their main job, and you then take the client by the hand, and not just your client, but all of the other people who are your client's clients, and say, okay, here is how you use it. You do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you have the sale. And it's that, I mean, we used to talk about how we just had to make a great presentation, and now it's really, you have to train people and show them how they use it in their, their multitude of situations within their particular sales and marketing environment. Here's what you do here, here's what you do there, and it's either, it's the training and the implementation, and that's when you really have the value.
The team that works on this feels responsible for the sales numbers of their client, and they have really significantly increased it, or helped increase it. Okay, David, it's your turn now.
Something else. Yeah. I opened Google and I didn't have your image. The same? Oh, okay, it's the same. I'm sorry. I just. Okay. No?
I saw you just that late, by the way.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't have flash.
Of course, yeah. That forward is. Something wrong.
Okay.
Today is the 46th anniversary of Star Trek.
On Thursday, yeah.
It's already recording, so you can go whenever you're ready.
That was a great presentation, Hardy. Thank you. Really, really, really good. I've always thought GRIPS was brilliant, and I'd love to put that one to use if I could. As I mentioned this morning, we track some contextual changes that are happening in society in Australia, and they affect all of our work. So we try to keep them at the forefront of our mind and in our researcher team mind, and we're constantly trying to add to our knowledge. Every now and again, something gets really big. In Australia, once upon a time, we had a demographic profile like a triangle. A few old people, some middle people, and then lots of young people coming through. The Australian demographic profile's now a rectangle. It's like that. I suspect it's the same in Germany.
We're probably more older than younger people now.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit like this.
Yeah.
I suspect the same in Canada. I think it would be the same in the UK and Ireland. But probably not the case in Peru.
No, Latin America.
You have the proper arrangement. Yeah. But of course, it has major implications for marketers, and government, and all kinds of things. So we decided, and we did talk about this at IRIS in Amsterdam, but we decided to do some research with this group to actually add to our knowledge of this changing issue, so that we could talk about it. So today, I'm just giving you a very quick run through of the kinds of things we're finding with this group. In the study, what we looked at was what are the desires and aspirations of people over 55? What are their attitudes to consumption, to media, to vitamins, to all kinds of things? We looked at what their concerns are, and we looked at some of their consumption patterns around products and services. What we do is we actually do a survey 55 plus, but we also pick up a little cohort 50 to 54 because we suspected that there were changes happening at around 55 through 60. And we found that to be the case. So there's a lot of things start to change in our lives around that point in time. What we do is we have this batch of the survey that's pretty similar, the core part of the survey that goes wave after wave, but we also do things like the health report. So we'll have a deep delve around health issues, or we'll have a deep delve around lifestyle issues, or we'll have a deep delve on media or something like that. So that's how it's all organised. The situation in Australia is that we've got 5,732 people who turn 50 every week. There's nearly 7 million of them in the population, but in 20 years' time there's going to be 10 million of them in the country. So that's the kind of change that we're faced with. I just thought I'd just quickly show you just how we go about collecting our trends. I won't waste a lot of time, but we just constantly get out all of our staff to read the newspapers, to pick up the European papers, to pick up the new books, and if they find something that someone's saying is an emerging trend, we'll add it to our list. And we'll start looking around to see what we can find out about these maybe trends, what's really happening out there. Our next question is, does it somehow relate to some fundamental human need? Because if it doesn't, it's probably more a fad. It'll come and it'll go. But if it actually relates to the way human beings think and perceive and understand, then we think it'll be relevant if it's got a real need. And then the other layer we put on it is we say, but is it going to matter to the organisations we deal with? Is it going to make them less productive or less profitable or less efficient in some way? And if it does impact them, then it goes onto our list as well.